January is finally over and it was not an easy month, but watching movies made things a bit easier. So I want to talk about everything I watched in Jan. I'll tell you a bit about the films and then give you my thoughts on them. And as usual, please like, subscribe, and comment if you liked the video. Algorithm and me, thank you. In Mumbai, Nurse Prabha's routine is troubled when she receives an unexpected gift from her estranged husband. Her younger roommate, Anu, tries in vain to find a spot in the city to be intimate with her boyfriend. A trip to a beach town allows them to find a space for their desires to manifest. What a fabulous movie. I've never seen a film portray loneliness so beautifully as this movie has. I was overwhelmed with emotion once the film ended. You need to experience this film for yourself because I just can't put the feeling I felt while watching this into words. It's the way Payal Kapadia uses light and cramped spaces to tell a story about friendship, solidarity, and like I said, loneliness in a way that just feels melancholic but hopeful. And everybody here has just acted brilliantly, but it's Kani Kusruti who just blew me away. I became a fan of hers after Girls Will Be Girls, and now I'm an air conditioner. I will watch her do anything from now on. Disgraced journalist Michael Blomkvist investigates the disappearance of a wary patriarch's niece from 40 years ago. He is aided by the pierced, tattooed, punk computer hacker named Lisbeth Salander. As they work together in the investigation, Blomkvist and Salander uncover immense corruption beyond anything they've ever imagined. The film is low-key my second favorite Fincher movie after Gone Girl. Rooney Mara is one of the most interesting actors currently working. She is just so good here. And it still pisses me off that we never got a proper sequel to this film. Instead, we got that random sequel where they recast Mara with Queen Elizabeth. And none of the cast members returned. Just stupid. A single and lonely woman finds the seemingly perfect man to date, but soon regrets it when his deranged and possessive other personality emerges. Worse, she cannot convince anyone else of his Jekyll Hyde true nature. This rom-com, which came out before Ellen DeGeneres came out, stars Ellen as a heterosexual woman, and let me just say her chemistry with Bill Pullman is so terrible. The film keeps a quirky tone throughout, even when Bill Pullman's character is being a total creepy psycho. It's an unfunny movie, and Ellen looks awkward throughout this. Joan Cusack is here too, and even this brilliant lady can't save this train wreck. With his marriage fraying, Blake persuades his wife Charlotte to take a break from the city and visit his remote childhood home in rural Oregon. As they arrive at the farmhouse in the dead of night, they're attacked by an unseen animal and barricade themselves inside the house as the creature prowls the perimeter. But as the night stretches on, Blake begins to behave strangely, transforming into something unrecognizable. I love Lee Monell as a director. I loved Invisible Man and it's one of my favorite horror films. And I also love how fun and unique Upgrade is. And don't judge me, but Insidious Chapter 3 is my favorite Insidious movie. So I went into Wolfman with huge expectations, and I was low-key very disappointed. The film just doesn't push itself too far. There is so much potential here for body horror with the werewolf transformation, but it's just not enough. Same with the themes. I love that the story wants to explore generational trauma, but it just doesn't push it as far. Christopher Abbott as a wolf made me question things because he looked a little too good. I just feel bad for not liking the film as much as I wanted to. A family's vacation to a remote getaway takes an unexpected turn when they discover the island they're on is inhabited by a serial killer. I will watch anything Nick Frost does, and I was very excited about this, but I didn't love it as much. The bloody third act is great, and some of the humor lands. I just can't talk about this without spoiling it, so all I'll say is watch Lowlifes on Tubi instead. At an exclusive, secluded North American ski resort up on Mount Rocky Summit, brutal slashing, severing, and beheading on a group of teenagers is taking place, and it is believed to be the work of a mysterious skier dressed in black. This is a fun generic slasher. It's very much a product of its time, ripe with 2000s homophobia. I didn't feel like I wasted my time watching this, Like, it was fun. Directed by Meera Nair, this is a documentary exploring the, quote, respectable and immoral stereotypes of women in Indian society, told from the point of view of two striptease dancers in a cabaret house in Bombay. I found this film on YouTube late at night, and even though this was filmed in the 80s, the message of the film just feels so current, and the way it's filmed feels so hypnotizing and tender. These ladies let Nair into their lives so intimately, and by the end of the film, I felt like I knew these ladies for a long time. It also works as a fascinating time capsule for India in the 80s. The clothes, The hair, the people, everything is just so 80s, and I loved it. It's fascinating to listen to these women talk about what it means to be a woman of that time, especially a woman who doesn't do a quote respectable job. The film sort of lays bare the hypocrisy of our society. It's quite something to watch. I will link the movie I found here in the description. You should 100% check it out. If you watch anything from this video, let it be this movie. A man with a hook for a hand escapes from a mental institution to go after the children of his previous victims. To quote Abby Lee Miller, boring, sloppy. It's a slasher movie in the sense that there's a killer running around, but most of the kills are off screen, and the whodunit is just weak as hell. Anna Faris is here in her debut, and that's probably the most interesting thing about this film. Sisters. Two disconnected sisters are summoned to clean out their childhood bedrooms before their parents sell their family home. This movie is a comfort film for me. I always say, that looks amazing on you. Because of this film, I also love the chemistry between Tina Fey and Amy Poehler, plus Maya Rudolph is hilarious. I also didn't realize Heywan was played by Greta Lee. I think that's awesome. A high school student must save townspeople from a murderous clown who works at a fast food place. You can probably tell my mood for January was slasher films. This one is nothing special. It just has some fun kills, and I think for the most part it's engaging. Gossip Girl fans should like it because Leighton Meester is the final girl and Penn Badgley is in it too. 6 friends are captured and tortured by a murderous family after giving a ride home to a desperate stranger. This Indonesian film is one of my favorite slasher films of all time. I just love how gnarly it is, and the main villain, Dara, is an icon. The final girl, Ladia, is a badass, and the last act will definitely have you on the edge of your seat. Every time I rewatch this, it always feels like the first time, just so intense, bloody, and also kind of sad. I have been patiently waiting for a sequel for the past decade and a half, and I'll continue waiting. Abby Bladecutt is a teenager torn between the macabre traditions of her family's bloody trade and the tender stirrings of her first crush. In the small town of Clover Falls, Abby's father, Roger, has built an infamous legacy by capturing real-life killings on tape and selling them to eager customers. But as Abby delves deeper into the grisly family business, she begins to wonder if it's time to take the family tradition in a new direction. I'm not going to lie, I was kind of confused with this film. Just the logic of the story world doesn't make sense. I don't want to get into it because it might spoil in case we want to watch it. But yeah, I have a lot of questions, and because I had so many questions, I couldn't fully suspend my disbelief. But the practical effects are great, and it was gay and entertaining enough. Young couple Steve and Nell move into once fashionable but now decaying apartment block in Hollywood, and soon realize that a number of young residents have met unusually violent deaths. Before long, Nell makes some disturbing discoveries about the building's manager and her fellow tenants. Directed by Tobe Hooper, I can confidently say this remake of the 80s film of the same name is better than the original. I love Angela Bettis in this, and my favorite part of the film was her character sort of investigating the building, and it just felt like a big treasure hunt. And I really enjoyed that. I believe that this is one of Hooper's best works. Raised a boy in East Berlin, Hedwig undergoes a personal transformation in order to emigrate to the US, where she reinvents herself as an internationally ignored but divinely talented rock diva, inhabiting a beautiful gender of one. Literally all I could think about while watching this was, here's to Ronnie, and Darcy, and Betty! Yeah! Best friends and roommates, Drew and Alyssa, are about to have one of them days. When they discover Alyssa's boyfriend has blown their rent money, the duo finds themselves going to extremes in a comical race against time to avoid eviction and keep their friendship intact. One of them days is hilarious, and the chemistry between SZA and Keke Palmer is great. I had a great fun time. I think this film would have been elevated from good to great if they just pushed the gags a little bit more, but still. The film itself is incredibly charming, and I had a great time in theaters. The girls also stressed me out, especially SZA's character. I was so invested that my anxiety was through the roof in some parts. I care about this girl so much, and that's because of how likable Keke and SZA are. In the early 1970s, the military dictatorship in Brazil reached its height. The Paiva family, Rubens, Eunice, and their 5 children, live in a beachside house in Rio, open to all their friends. One day Rubens is taken for questioning and does not return. I have said how much I love this film in my Best Picture nominees ranking video. I'm just going to play that clip because I don't want to record all that again. The way Walter Salles sets up the story by letting us take the time to get to know each member of the family and letting us spend the little moments that they spend with each other so intimately makes us care about them. My stomach was in knots from the very first scene watching them play with the dog, knowing that something awful was coming. And when it does happen, you're watching along with them, feeling every bit of pain, frustration, fear, helplessness, and uncertainty that they're feeling. The pacing in the second half becomes slower, perhaps to put us in Eunice's shoes. The world around her is crumbling slowly as she tries to piece back together her and her family's life. She's stuck in limbo, and the only person she has to rely on is herself. Fernanda Torres is an absolute powerhouse here. She captures Eunice's resilience and struggles so effectively. A single look conveying a lifetime of emotion. I had high expectations for her performance based on what I'd heard online, and she exceeded all those expectations. Truly fantastic. She is my pick to win Best Actress. Also, the end cameo from Fernanda Montenegro broke me into pieces. What a phenomenal movie. This anthology horror features a woman working the late shift at a gas station while the killer is on the loose, a man who can't stand the thought of losing his hair, and a baseball player that submits to an eye transplant. I thought the first story was the strongest because it felt very Halloween. John Carpenter directed that one, so it makes sense. The second story is funny, and the third one, well, I saw Mark Hamill's lightsaber. A group of film students set out to finish filming a movie that was never completed after its director was murdered. After they begin filming, they realize they're in for a bit of trouble, not unlike the late director. Kylie Minogue is here and gets Drew Barrymored, and honestly her scene doesn't make quite the same impact as Barrymore's scene in Scream, probably because it ends too quickly and Minogue has like 5 lines. Molly Ringwald is here too in her Courtney Cox era, and she's the highlight of this. Some kills are pretty gnarly and is quite enjoyable, except the stupid supernatural turn it takes towards the end. Overall, just an alright slasher, nothing too special but still entertaining. In 1930s England, a group of pretentious, rich, and famous gather together for a weekend of relaxation at a hunting resort. But when a murder occurs, each one of these interesting characters becomes a suspect. This film's cast is huge. Stephen Fry, Helen Mirren, Maggie Smith, Clive Owen, Ryan Philippe, Tom Hollander. I could go on and on. Since there are so many characters, it does take a bit of time to get used to all of them. 30 minutes in, we're still getting introduced to more characters, so it's a lot. But I found the film very enjoyable. It's more interested in being a social satire than it is interested in the murder mystery of it all. So if you are in the mood for a whodunit, this might not be the best choice. But I still think this is worth a watch. It was funny and quite engaging. International students at an elite Prague school are stalked and murdered by a masked killer while holding a party in an abandoned water park. Another generic slasher from the 2000s, this one has Isla Fisher and a very cute James McAvoy, worth a watch just for him. Pansy is a woman tormented by anger and depression, hypersensitive to the slightest possible offense, and ever ready to fly off the handle. She criticizes her husband and their adult son so relentlessly, and neither bothers to argue with her. She picks fights with strangers and sales clerks, and rants about the world's countless flaws to anyone who will listen, especially her cheerful sister, Chantal, who despite their clashing temperaments, might be the only person still capable of sympathizing with her. Just the way Pansy was broken and the way her bitterness and loneliness would manifest as anger towards everything, it felt so relatable. I felt seen. Marianne Jean-Baptiste is next level. This performance is one for the books. The fact that her and Michelle Austen both didn't get an Oscar nomination might just be the most egregious snub this year. This film might not be for everybody. The people I saw this with didn't love it as much as I did. The one thing I will say though, the ending was whatever. Like, I didn't care for the open-ended way the film concluded. Jane Marple solves the mystery when a local woman is poisoned and a visiting movie star seems to have been the intended victim. With actors like Angela Lansbury, Rock Hudson, and Elizabeth Taylor starring in this, I expected more. The film meanders a bit in the middle and it doesn't have enough of Miss Marple investigating. There are some funny moments here and there. One scene particularly when Elizabeth Taylor and Kim Novak read each other to filth stands out. I was cackling. When Maya learns her father Sam was once a spy, she suddenly finds herself at the center of an international conspiracy. As she seeks answers, Maya herself becomes a target and must quickly learn the skills of her father. Shot entirely on an iPhone, I expected this film to be just another January slop, but I was quite surprised. I will probably forget about it in a few days, but I had a fun time at the theaters watching. Phoebe Dynevor is great, and the shot from iPhone aesthetic really works well with the different bustling city the character visits throughout the film. When she's walking through the crowds, running through the city corners, or having meals at a restaurant, the iPhone cinematography really helps to make you feel like you're part of that action, and adds a layer of realism to this entire spy narrative. The disorienting aspect of the cinematography really added to my enjoyment. When an awkward but brilliant Chinese student wins a scholarship into a prestigious New Zealand university, she finds a way of achieving the popularity she craves, one bloody body at a time. Grafted started out so strong, with a relatable protagonist Wei and an insane opening scene. I was hooked. I was so ready for a body horror film to explore identity and beauty standards in society, but through an Asian lens. But the plot progression and just the messiness of the story really made it hard for that theme to come through, at least for me. Great effects though, the body horror aspect was great. A family becomes convinced that they are not alone after moving into their new home in the suburbs. Told entirely through the ghost's POV, Presence was an intriguing watch. The film was marketed as a scary supernatural horror, but it's more of a family drama with a supernatural spin. I actually really enjoyed this. I think the acting is solid even though we didn't get enough of Lucy Liu. It's the dialogue I had a problem with, especially for the younger characters. The way they were speaking just gave a major "how do you do, fellow kids" vibe. This one's not going to be everyone's cup of tea, but if you're looking for an experimental film from a remarkable director, this might just be right up your alley. A billionaire's death sets off a chain of events for Iris and her friends during a weekend trip to his lakeside estate. This movie was everything to me. I enjoyed it so much. I think the promos for this might have revealed a bit too much. That didn't affect my enjoyment at all. The film is funny and relevant, especially in its exploration of gender dynamics in a relationship, as well as themes of self-realization and overcoming abusive relationships. Also a very good for her movie. I cheered. Also, Sophie Thatcher is so good. Loved this, and I can't wait for Yellow Jackets Season 3. Soo-yeon, a cellist in an orchestra led by her fiancé and conductor Sung-jin, disappears one day, leaving behind only a video recording. Sung-jin is devastated over the loss of Soo-yeon, but feels a strong attraction to Mi-ju, a cellist who fills in for his fiancé. Then one rainy night, Sung-jin and Mi-ju get swept away by their mutual desires for each other and commit an unforgivable act at Soo-yeon's house. I will always be seated for an erotic thriller, and Hidden Face does the erotic part so well. That sex scene was intense, and Song Seung-hyun is so hot. As for the thriller part though, I was left quite disappointed. I have seen the original version of this film, The Hidden Face, and have seen the Bollywood remake, so I appreciate the changes they made in this adaptation, but I don't think it worked for me. It just never pushes the psychosexual craziness of all these characters far enough for the changes to work. I was low-key bored in the middle. It's just so bland and uninteresting, and the only highlight to me was that sex scene and Cho Yo-jung. Debbie Ocean, a criminal mastermind, gathers a crew of female thieves to pull off the heist of the century at New York's annual Met Gala. I am still waiting for a sequel. Where is Ocean's 9? In this rags to riches origin story, Lady Camden struggles to manage the demands of her freshly minted international fame, while Rex is forced to come to terms with the troubling childhood he left behind in Camden, which drove him to so desperately seek joy, fantasy, and escape through the performing arts. This is a documentary about Lady Camden from RuPaul's Drag Race, and I found this to be very sweet and moving. I love Lady Camden, so learning about her and her journey was very enlightening. Even if you're not a fan of Lady Camden's, you should still watch this because the story is told through fun animated interludes, and the behind-the-scenes tidbits from Drag Race is very fascinating. Moving on. As for the TV shows, I'm currently watching Severance. It's brilliant, and I will be always seated for my broadcast TV shows like Abbott Elementary, High Potential, Elspeth, St. Denis Medical, and Matlock. Also, I thought the season finale of The Sex Lives of College Girls was pretty moving, and I'm enjoying the pit on Max. Alright, that's about everything I watched in January. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know in the comments what you watched and loved in January, and your thoughts on the films I talked about here. If you liked the video, please like and comment, and don't forget to subscribe for more film, TV, and Drag Race content.